Hi, I'm Kelly Wave, and this is a drawing I did of a sunflower with a bee. I decided to do this drawing because I wanted to have a simpler, little bit easier drawing compared to the last one I just did, which took a lot of brain power and a lot of work and thought went into that one, and I just wanted something a little bit easier for my brain. And so I was just scrolling through my phone and I had photos from when my boyfriend and I went to this garden, and it had a lot of sunflowers there, and it was really cute because all the bees were just sleeping in them because it was earlier in the morning and it was a little dewy and it was just really pretty. So I decided that I wanted to try drawing one of the sunflowers. It's not the first time I've done sunflowers. I did sunflowers eons ago. The fun fact, there's actually a picture up of that artwork in my parents' house. I'll put it here if I remember to get it. I'll probably remember because I'm gonna have to hear this audio so much. So anyway, what I basically wanted to do was kind of have a small challenge, but not really a challenge. Like, I wasn't really giving myself any strict things to do with this one, other than I didn't want to do line work initially. Like, I didn't want any, like, harsh line work. I just wanted to do it, like, a more pastel-y, like, design. Or, like, kind of... Actually, it looks kind of more oil pastel than chalk pastel. Anyway, I digress. And initially I did this all on one layer, which wasn't the greatest idea. There are some problems with that, but it was one of those things where I was just tired, lazy, and I didn't want to, after doing the Desert Witch, I didn't want to lose momentum in my art, so I just wanted to do something simple, cute, sweet. And so I mainly just worked on this, and you'll see now I'm just adjusting the colors in the center. Apparently it's called a pistil. Pistil. I don't know if that's the way you're supposed to say it. Because it sounds kind of like pistol. So anyway, I worked on that, and I really wanted to focus on trying to get this, like, color combo going on with that. So I really like that. I like that element of it. That's what makes sunflowers kind of neat, is that their center is very large, so there's a lot of room to mess with colors and things like that. And then for the petals, I wasn't sure entirely what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted them to stand out. I knew they wanted to have shadow, but I didn't want to I didn't want to do, like, crazy line work or anything. And so I was just playing around trying to see, like, how would this look, like, super detailed, because they do, like, have kind of folds in them, each petal, in a way. Like, very distinct, like, lines. But when I did this initially, and I changed it later, they're a little too harsh at the moment. And everything was just kind of blurry because I wasn't doing any line work and because of the brush I was using as well. So I ended up sharpening it as I went. I do kind of like the blurry effect of it, though. It's kind of nice. Again, it is very pastel-like, and I have worked with pastels before, just not in a while. Not since, college. I feel old now. It's okay. It's okay. We're not gonna think about that. So I really focused on the design of the leaves, like, make them sharper, make them more, make them, like, kind of sit better with the petals, because they felt too flat initially. And so I messed with that a lot, because they just seemed way too flat and boring for what they are. And I do get to a point where I feel really good about it, because this entire process was just me No thoughts in the brain, just blending nonstop. Just constant blending, just jumping around and doing different things. And then when I put the background color in, I realized that I needed to definitely do a flat underneath, especially some of it, like the leaves were a good example because obviously I did not put in the spots like in between the petals and the pistil. And that needed to be added in. That's where I had to add it in there. And then I realized that the... Oh no, this is when I started adding in the bees. I was initially going to add more bees in, but then this ended up being a lot more challenging than I thought it was going to be, partially because it is a bug and bugs have a very distinct shape to them, especially bees. Bees have a very distinct shape to them, and I had references on the side of honeybees, and I'm like, because they're not perfectly yellow in a way, they're more kind of, they're like a little mix of yellow and orangey color. They're not as yellow as flower petals, the sunflower petals are. They're a little bit more of an orange tint. And then with the wings, they're more transparent, so I was trying to figure out that. That was actually pretty quick, honestly. Figuring out the shading was a little bit harder because it just felt like a little bug just sitting on top of this, kind of like a stamp, and then just trying to fix it to figure out how to make it not stamp-like. If you can't tell, my brain just went everywhere on this one. Because when I put the bee in, that was when I realized that the petals weren't bright enough. Like, they weren't yellow enough. Because initially when I did the sunflower, it's like, okay, I need like a goldenish, brownish color. That is not the case. They are a very bright yellow. It just messes with my brain that they're that yellow. Because flowers are kind of strange in the sense of, like, they don't have a lot of shading to them. So when you do bright colors, it feels kind of off. Or at least it does to me. And this is me getting rid of the other two bees because I was just not dealing with it. And so when I went back in, it felt a lot better with the petals. Going back in with the petals, it felt a lot better. What the heck was I doing there? Oh, I know I was... Lower the opacity, I'm like, whoa, that was different. Here, I realized that I had slightly messed up on the pistil. Because I have it off center because the flowers turned. And then I realized that I needed to add more depth to that left side because that is technically supposed to be more in a shadowy part. So I started doing that with a more detailed, very thin brush. And I really like how it ended up. I think I do more later. Yeah, I'm doing it right now. It's just hard to tell and it's hard to see, but you can see it's slowly getting more detailed as it's adding in. And it's definitely a lot better because then the bee looks like it's sitting on it more. And with the color combos, it looks really pretty. I actually really like how this color combo worked out. And it's just really satisfying to watch, honestly. Except for that. And then... I don't remember what I do here. I want to say it's either I'm jumping around, like, fixing things, because I was definitely trying to sharpen everything. Yeah, I'm, like, sharpening all the petals, like, making sure that they all have a little bit more detail in them. They're definitely brighter, because they still didn't feel bright enough, even though... It's one of those things in my head, it's kind of like the reverse of what, like... You know how, like, when you're, like, 6 or something and you start drawing, you draw everything based on how you think it would look, kind of like how, with hands, you would just, regardless if the person was on their, like, if they were in a different, like, side view or something, you would still draw a hand like it was... you know, tracing it around, like, for a turkey. That kind of thing. But it was kind of, like, the reverse for me, because in my head, sunflowers just weren't that bright, and it just felt wrong. It was, like, going the reverse of the 6-year-old and just feeling like, no, from an artistic perspective, it shouldn't be that bright, but they are. It's just how flowers are, and it just was not registering in my brain. I still, in theory, could have gone way brighter. It just didn't feel right to do for this kind of drawing, especially because, well, that's not true. It just doesn't feel right in my brain, and it's because I wanted to have shadows in it, like a lot more shadow than it normally does. So it was more like an artistic decision on that part, but also a challenge because I was like, I don't want to make it brighter, but it looks better brighter, and it's more correct brighter. Correct in quotes. It was just one of those struggles where it's like me and bright colors do not mesh well at all. Like, making something super bright is not something I normally do, because this is obviously meant to be on like a partially cloudy-ish day, which is what it was when I went. It was like a really bright sun when I went, and I just made the shadows darker instead of making the petals brighter. And just kept going around and adjusting them and making the ones underneath brighter, and that worked very well. Like, I really like how the shadow looks with this, because it's giving that harsh contrast that it needs for a really bright sun. Because if it was cloudy, it wouldn't be this bright, and the shadows would be a little bit softer and it would blend a lot more. That's not, but this works really well for the kind of light source this is, because the sun is bright as heck. Very bright. Sometimes too bright. It hurt eyes. And so I'm just going in and doing more detail, and I get to a point where I feel satisfied enough and just finish it there. And that's it. I hope you guys like it. If you enjoy this kind of content, please subscribe. I have a Patreon if you want to check it out. I post sketches there and stuff like that. Anyway, hope you guys liked it. Bye!